Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done a walk and talk video, so I just kind of wanted to find a quiet place. It's still kind of aesthetic. I'll show you. I'm kind of like walking up into a shrine to kind of talk about some stuff. This is not even scripted or anything like that, but kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how Japanese culture, whether it be Japanese peer pressure or the rules that Japan has, the strictness of Japan, kind of affects you in a way. See, isn't this cool? It's really beautiful. Kind of how it affects you in a way. I hope there's not going to be bugs and stuff. It's still summer, and I see some dark clouds, so hopefully it's not going to rain on me. But I think when you come to Japan, you may do some research and already understand that, like, first of all, obviously Japanese culture and lifestyle is like very different than in the West, in America, where I'm from. Oh my goodness, there's gonna be bugs everywhere, so excuse that too. My goodness. But then it's another thing when you like experience it, like changing you and changing how like you view things and how you work as a person, right? So like an American person could come to Japan and think, oh, nothing here is gonna affect me. Goodness, bugs. Nothing here is going to affect me. I'm not gonna like change my lifestyle or anything. I'm not re-recording any of this. This is how it is walking around in the summer in Japan. You gotta bring bug spray with you. They're everywhere. They want to attack you. Maybe now that we're out of the trees we're fine, but you might come into Japan and think like, oh, it's not gonna affect me, the culture and everything. Like, I'm not really gonna change the way that I do things. For me, that was not the case. I definitely feel some kind of change. This is pretty. Isn't that nice? I'll show more of it on the way out maybe, but I don't know exactly where I want to go. Maybe up in here. For example, like one of the things is like rules. I was never like really a big rule person. Like you can bend the rules, you can break the rules, you can bring in new ideas. Like we don't always have to follow the same path in a project that we're doing or in some kind of community or something. But now I am like obsessed with sticking to the rules, so much so that like I have an anime watch party group that me and my private friends maybe I should go up in here, that we just sit on Discord and we watch anime and stuff, and I have these rules for like suggesting anime and the length of the anime and what kind of anime is okay to show and what's not. And like in the past, I think I would have been more lenient towards someone suggesting like a different option or rule, and I suddenly find myself like getting really upset and offended almost, like, and it's no one else's fault but my own, but like getting upset or offended by wanting to change, or like changing something. Oh my god, changing like this tradition that I've put in place or these rules that I so carefully crafted. It's like starting to annoy me, and that would not have been the case before moving to Japan, or even a couple of years ago, even though I was living in Japan. I guess just time does that to you. Anyway, let's walk in through here a little bit. See, I like walking around here because there's no one here this time of day at all. It's really peaceful, and I can just walk. So things like that kind of have started affecting me a little bit more. Another thing is the Japanese way to say no to someone if someone is incorrect is very beating around the bush. Directness is not as common in Japan as it is in the West. So like if you ask someone a question, hopefully people here will be okay with me like recording. Usually they are. I don't even think they'll notice. Yeah, this place, it looks closed. There's probably not even anyone here. Every time I come here, I'm like the only person, one of the only people. But yeah, directness is not as common in the West, and like that's starting to affect me in ways where like if I'm talking to someone and I ask a question, or I state something, they're like, oh no. It seems like really direct, and I almost get offended in a way. Like I get like, oh my god, should I not have said that? Like they seem really offended over that. But it's more of like, in America it's okay to be direct. It's okay to say like, no, that's not it at all. Whereas in Japan, like in Japanese you barely use the word no. Even like no, you might have learned no in Japanese. It's ie, yeah is like the direct translation of no, but this is like, I never use this. I almost never use this. Like, there are other terms in Japanese, like, chigaimasu ne, which is, it's different. It literally translates to, it's different. And that is more of what, like, I see in Japan when I ask a question and it's like a refusal, or it's a no. It's very beat around the bush. It's like, that's not really the case. Not quite that. Like, instead, let's do this. It's not very direct. And I hated this when I first came to Japan. Look at this, though. This is pretty. I hated this when I first came to Japan. I am not walking in there. That's where all the bugs are, probably, other than on me. And I hated that when I first came to Japan, the indirectness, and there are times where I still hate it, but I think, like, I'm kind of getting used to beating around the bush and these answers that aren't quite answers. So to the point where now when I get an answer from a person who's like from the West or something, it seems just almost judgmental. It seems almost like scary. Like, oh, is this what you mean by no? It kind of like shocked me a little bit, instead of like the kind of easier way to express that something is incorrect. So this is something that lately I kind of struggle with. Like, I tend to think that someone saying no to something is really harsh to me recently. So, but again, like, I've spent so much time in Japan. Like, you have to consider, like, I first came to Japan when I was 20. I moved here when I was 24. I didn't leave Japan for like the longest, like for 2.5 years. I was just in Japan because of coronavirus and stuff. So I didn't really, I'm just gonna go in a circle. We're gonna go in a circle. I didn't really have much exposure to like Western culture outside of like my Western friends, you know? So, and of course, spending time at work with the Japanese company, with Japanese coworkers, it does kind of affect the way that you think. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that part. And the other thing I've noticed is like actual peer pressure, like Japanese peer pressure actually does get to me, and I feel like I was not normally that way. I cannot tell what are animals and what are just leaves moving and falling. Japanese peer pressure. So let's kind of talk about this. The first time I felt like I dealt with Japanese peer pressure was actually, I was working at a middle school, and I came in dressed really professionally. I felt like a black dress, and it was cold, so I was wearing like a red and green gingham scarf. It was near the holidays. It felt really festive. And I was wearing this scarf throughout the day. I didn't like take it off when I got in the office or anything. And one of the teachers came up to me and was like, "Wow, you're really stylish today." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And this also goes back to kind of what I've noticed is like there's not a lot of directness. There's not a lot of like beating around the bush and stuff like that. And or there is a lot of beating around the bush. And I kind of took it as a compliment at first, but she this teacher was like, "Yeah, I just a very stylish scarf." Like going on about it, and I was like, okay, like the way that she's complimenting it is very weird. It feels a little backhanded, but okay. And then after I kind of realized that like everyone else in the office dresses way more plainly. Just a like, or when they come in, they take off their hats, they take off their scarves, makeup, jewelry. These are not things that you should wear as a teacher in Japan. And you know, this is explained to us and everything when we start, but I wasn't thinking. I was like, oh, scarf, like you could just wear a scarf. Like, no, it's not gaudy by any stretch of the imagination. And so like after that situation, I felt really self-conscious about it, and I did not wear my scarf like during class or anything. I dressed like super plainly, never wore any makeup or anything like that. That's just kind of like the first example of Japanese peer pressure that I experienced, and I decided to change the way that I act. And where am I going with this? Again, this is not going to be unedited. This is just kind of like off the cuff, definitely off the cuff. But you know, I do it in other things too. Like, I don't really want to be loud on trains. I don't really want to cause a disturbance to others, which sounds all good and stuff, but like, I think some Westerners that live in Japan, they feel like they're succumbing to peer pressure, like or to rules that don't really make sense. There are cars pulling in, and I hope they don't wonder what the heck I'm doing. Basically what I'm trying to say is that maybe I should walk back up. Maybe that car's gonna go to the parking lot and then I can walk down there. Anyway, what I want to say is that I feel like there's a difference in following the rules because they're there to like not cause a disturbance, and falling into peer pressure, and maybe what I'm saying does not make sense to someone who has not like experienced spending a lot of time in Japan and spending a lot of time around like Japanese people. But and of course there's Japanese people that break the rules, especially young people. The times are definitely changing, but a lot of people in Japan, it's an aging population, so it's very old. It's still very traditional. This is why like sometimes you see like I use Nintendo as an example all the time. Like Nintendo is a very strict company, like with copyright, with who they work with their IPs and stuff like that. Nintendo is so Japanese to their core. They don't want to change anything. They are, well, despite wanting to like change their products a lot of the times, but as far as like the business side of it, they're very strict. They're very Japanese. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but these are just my ramblings. Like, I don't know, I've kind of noticed that those three things mostly. Japanese peer pressure does affect me more than I thought it would when I first got here. And I think it affects me more 6 years into living in Japan than it did my first year, which is really strange. I still have times where I want to think independently and I want to do things my own way and I want to be, the American that I am or whatever, but it does affect me. Rules, I'm so much more I'm a lot more unchanging about rules that I make, and I love rules. I do love making rules, and I like them being very detailed to make I do think it makes life easier. And like direct no's, direct refusals, it takes me a little bit to get used to those things. It takes me a little bit to say, oh, that they're not being like offensive or anything. That's just that culture compared to the culture that I've been in for the last 6-7 years, where I've gotten used to indirect answers. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. That's me rambling. This is just like really pretty. I think this is a rice field right here. So yeah, just wanted to walk around that shrine right there. I hope that my bike is still around here and didn't get taken away. We'll find out. It looks like it's still there. Yeah, we're still good. Anyway, that's all I have. I don't know if any of this rambling makes sense, but I know that you guys really like these walk and talk videos in places like this. So there you have it. Just a really nice little place that I like to come and walk occasionally. So it's too hot for that right now. I probably won't do it for a while. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments or your own experiences being in Japan and maybe experiencing even like different places that aren't Japan, like different countries that have like different cultures, and maybe you've experienced peer pressure there, you've experienced either directness or non-directness, let me know in the comments what you think about all that. Anyway, oh, actually, before I go, last little example, before I get on my bike. One of the examples was I get like peer pressured into like what I'm wearing too. Like I went to Japanese class a few weeks ago, and I came into class wearing like long pants, and every other person in there that was American were wearing like really short shorts, and I don't feel comfortable wearing really short shorts in Japan anymore, because it's like you don't really see it that much in like Inaka areas, like outside of Shibuya, like really short like booty shorts like we would see in America in the summer when the weather's like 90 degrees. Like I remember the other Americans in class going like, why are you wearing pants? It's so hot. Why aren't you wearing shorts? And I thought to myself, I'm like, why am I not wearing shorts? In America, this weather, I would be wearing like really, really short shorts. And I'm like, I really only do it because I'm living in Japan, and I feel that pressure. Anyway, that's just another strange example of that, of how like small little lifestyle changes that I don't even notice I'm doing sometimes until someone asks me about them. Just little things like that can add up, and then it's like, oh yeah, my life is really different. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. I'm gonna go back home. Don't forget to like this video if you like it. If you do like more of these walk and talks, I'll try to do some more of them. There's not really a lot of interesting places in Ibaraki, but at least this place is quiet. Alright guys, I'll catch you in another video. Bye!